Hey everybody, welcome back. Monday Morning Briefing, episode number 78. It's actually Monday, September the 12th, 2022. And last week we didn't have a Monday video, but we did turn out our complete saddle build time-lapse video. If you haven't seen that, go back to our channel and check that out. That video has been doing really well for us. A lot of good feedback on that. People are really enjoying seeing the entire process. Like we talked about before, it's not really a tutorial video. We're not showing every single step and every single technique. I believe all the steps are in there, but they're really fast. It's a time lapse. I tried to get it as short as I could. The shortest I could make that video was about 32 minutes, I believe. I had a few people email and ask like what was the total time on building that saddle. I'm gonna guess, because I didn't really keep track of my time. I guess I go back and add up all the footage, but I didn't film every single minute of that build. I just filmed enough of it in time lapse so that you could see the entire process from start to finish. But when we did that, I'm gonna guess it that usually on a rough out saddle, I've got anywhere from 40 to 50 hours in there. And that's a good solid estimate on most builds. If you kind of know what you're doing, you've built a few, you're gonna have somewhere around that time in building one saddle. On that one there with the tooling that it had in there, I'm gonna guess it somewhere around 70 to 80 hours, somewhere around in there. I usually use 120 to 150 hour estimate for a fully tooled saddle. So that's everything on the saddle tooled, no rough out areas. So you can kind of gauge it around in there. So saddles just take a lot of time to build. The way we build them, you get into a manufactured setting, they've got those times cut pretty good. They can assemble a saddle or put a saddle together pretty quickly, but they're also cutting out a lot of important steps that you'll see that I do in my build. Also too, everybody build saddles a little different. Everybody's got their own way. I was apprehensive on turning that video out just because other saddle makers may think the way I do certain things is crazy. Maybe they don't like the way I did this or did that. That's fine. That's the way craftsmanship is. I've always said you get three farriers talking to each other and none of them can agree on how a horse ought to be shod. And so it's the same way with saddles. You're going to get people that disagree with different things and different ways of doing it. Everybody's got their own way, right? So well, I went ahead and stuck it out there. That's how I build. I don't know if that's how I'll build for the next 10 years. It definitely isn't the way I built 5 years ago. My build process has changed a lot, and that's why I don't have a ton of saddle build videos or tip videos on my channel, is only because I feel like I'm still learning. I feel like I'm still trying to get my system down to where I've got it. It's solid. I can trust it. And so I don't want to teach something or put it out there as an instructional video and then me change the way I do it and everybody assume that's how I'm still doing it 10 years later. And so that's just kind of something I need to work on and get over probably, but it's just kind of where I'm at mentally. I'm always kind of tweaking and changing and trying to improve and make my process more efficient and more accurate mainly. I worry about efficiency on saddles, but at the price range where I'm at, I don't worry about time efficiency as much as I do accuracy. I want everything as good and as accurate as possible, and so that trumps everything else. But anyway, saddle video's out. It did really well. If you haven't checked it out, go on our YouTube channel and check that out. I think it was fun. It was a fun video put together. It was a ton of footage, just a bunch of little clips. Like I said, time lapse, you can let it run for 30 minutes and the clip is pretty tiny actually, but you've got to go through there and find out, there's times I move the camera or I walk off out of the shot and I'm maybe gone for 5 minutes, which in turns a few seconds. So I had to go through all of it and kind of clip it out and change it, but it worked out good. We're excited about it, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it, so hope you enjoy that. Couple quick things is steel stamps. A lot of people ask where I get my maker stamps made for my logo and stuff like that we're putting into leather. I have always used steel stamps with Tim Purdy out there, and you can go online. I'll put a link in the description for their website. That's who I've always used. In fact, when I started and got my very first official maker stamp made, the ones that one of them I still use because it was just my signature logo, and so it doesn't have the town, and so I've used that one forever. The other one, the original one, it says Brian on it, and so I'm not in Bryan anymore, and so over the years I've quit using that one, but only just because I moved, not because of anything else. But over the years I've gotten other little stamps from him and things. Well, he sent me one, we saw each other in Waco, and it's always good to visit with him. He's such a great guy. He's very helpful, very knowledgeable, can really create a stamp for anybody really. But visited with him. Well, then when I got home, I guess last week maybe, I think it was last week, we ended up getting a stamp from him. He sent us as a little gift, I'm assuming, and it's my signature logo. You may have seen it on Instagram, and you're not able to see it on the camera, but it is so tiny. It's right there on this piece of leather, and I measured this thing, and this stamp will fit on a 5/8 headstall or a 5/8 wide set of split reins, anything like that. It'll be perfect on like a little wallet or something. It's just a little different rendition of my normal logo. It's got the signature, but then it just says Saddlery. There's no town, there's no nothing, and it's very clean and simple, and I really like it. And it's amazing. If you go back to my Instagram page, probably last week sometime, go through there, you'll see the picture of this piece of leather with this stamp that I stamped into the leather there. You can see the detail of that signature, and it's just amazing what they can do with leather, with steel, and putting it into leather. So if you're looking for a maker stamp, check them out. Like I said, I'll put a link to their website down in the description. They're very knowledgeable, very helpful. They can really help you out and get you a quality maker stamp. There's a lot of other options out there that may be more affordable, but if you're in it for the long term and you want something that's going to stay with you for a lifetime and that your grandkids will have and be able to admire and maybe use and put on some projects of their own, then I would definitely stay with steel, and steel stamps would be the ones that I would use, just because that's who I've always used I got my first stamp made in 2002, I think. Somewhere around there, 2002 probably, 2003, and he was the one I found. At that time they were in Las Vegas. Now they're no longer in Las Vegas anymore, but anyway, go on the website, check them out. Also, I ordered a bunch of stuff you may have seen on Instagram as well. I ordered a bunch of new paints. I was missing some colors. I'm running out of some of the Angela stuff, and my dyes, I don't have any colors really to speak of other than just brown and black. And so I wanted to get a better collection there of different dyes and paints for the paint bench. And I had visited with Aaron and them at Maker's Leather Supply there in Waco, and I've been really happy with the Alpha 6 paints, and so I've just been playing with them more and more over the last year, since I guess it's been about a year since I got my first set of those just to play with. I really like the paint. It works out really well. It holds really good. So I went ahead and just bought only Alpha 6 paints to replace some of the colors I was missing. And the Angelus, there's nothing wrong with them. I still enjoy them. I still use them. They're great paints, but the Alpha 6 I like a little bit better, I think. That's kind of where I'm at as far as the actual acrylics go. And so I went ahead and just bought a bunch more of those, so now I've got a bigger variety of colors, and so we'll kind of start working some of those into some different projects and maybe some videos. And I also ordered a bunch more 5 Beams paints or dyes in some colors, because like I said, I don't have a lot of the other than browns. So I ordered like some turquoise, some cordovan, I guess, some mahogany, and some different, some green, some blue. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those yet, but I made a little color chart on a piece of leather just to see, so I know what those colors look like in leather. Because with dyes, a lot of times the color you think it's going to be in leather, especially after you oil it, sometimes isn't really the shade that you were expecting. So I always advise, when you get new dyes in, especially paints are pretty simple, they're going to look the same. But when you get new dyes, go ahead and put those, get you just a little belt strip and dye little sections with all those colors and nail that to the wall or to your bench or have it hanging there, so that you can compare if you're trying to match a pair of boots on a belt, or you're trying to match a wallet, or whatever you're trying to do. You'll actually have a finished value of that shade, of that color, on the actual material that you're building on the leather, because it can vary a little bit. You think it's turquoise is going to be just this bright green blue turquoise, and when you put it on leather and then put some oil on it, it might look a little different. So play with that, always work with that. But ordering all that stuff, ordered a few other things too. They sent me a couple gifts, or hey, try these kind of thing, and they sent me this little knife. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this little guy, but it's really cool. Potentially dangerous because it's small. I always get scared with little bitty blades like that, because they're easy to kind of poke your other hand or get your finger where it's not supposed to be. But I'm going to play with this little knife. I think it'll be good for just little fine skiving and filigree work maybe. I don't know. It's very neat. The handle's really comfortable. It's really large. I don't know if they're selling these or if this is like a new product. I'm not really sure. In fact, I might need to shoot them a text before I have this in the video, so we might do that just to make sure. But anyway, they sent that to me. I kind of like it. I threw it on my bench. I'm gonna make a little holder for it, and that way we can kind of piddle with that and play with it. They also sent me a jar of this Tokonol edge rub burnishing gum. I see this on a lot of YouTube videos. It seems like a lot of craftsmen out there use this type of edge burnishing solution. I've never really messed with it. It looks like somewhat of a gum tragacanth and something like that. You know as well as I do, I've done a video on my burnishing. I use water and glycerin. That's what I've always used. That's a hard habit to break. We've been working in the Martin's mix into our stuff, and I've actually been using it quite a bit, especially on like wallets and things like that, because I can burnish them very quickly, and the edges dry quicker, and I can go ahead and dye the edges. And so I've had zero trouble with that stuff, and I've really kind of enjoyed using that stuff more and more. But I'm still on my saddles and things. It ain't broke, so I don't want to fix it. In other words, I like my edges the way I do them with the glycerin bar and stuff like that. But I played with this on Instagram. I posted a Rattlesnake guitar strap that we did last week. Rattlesnake skin, I inlaid it in there. I went ahead because I lined it with a chap leather because I wanted it to have a little bit of tack to it when the guy's wearing it and playing the guitar. I didn't want to use veg tan and have it just slipping off his shoulder all the time, so I used a little bit of pebble grain, about a medium brown chap leather that I had that made a really nice liner for that. And that stuff, as you know, doesn't edge very well. So the glycerin and water doesn't really work good on the oil tan type leathers. So I gave this a whirl just because I had it. Aaron and them sent it to me, and I thought, well, I better play with it on something. So I put some on, and it did a fabulous job. It really did work really well. So I can see where this. I'm going to try the Martin's mix too on some chap leather. I got another little chap leather project I'm going to do. I'm going to try the Martin's mix and see how it compares to this. But this may be why most of the other leather craftsmen on YouTube that work mainly with like Horween leathers, high-end Cordovan, those really high-end, nice tempered chap leathers, they're more of a finished type tannage, and that might be why they're using this for their edges, because their edges are beautiful. When you look at the edges that a lot of those folks do, their edges are very, very glassy, very smooth. They do a great job. I can't get that edge with water and glycerin. This may be what they're doing and using this. So I did try it on some veg tan, just a little belt strip. I kind of edged it, and I think I needed to spend more time sanding that because it was pretty rough. It slicked it up nice, but I think I could have done a better job on that spot, sanding and getting a nice smooth sand on there, and then going with this, and it probably would have just shined it up really, really good. The concern I have with this, because I have to mention this because people are going to try this stuff, I want to just kind of be transparent, put that out there. The only issue that I have with this and the Martin's mix too is that if you're working with raw veg tan leather, and you've tooled it and you've slicked it or edged it and you're about to slick it and you haven't oiled it or finished it, this, I would assume, I haven't tried it with this, but I know on the Martin's mix it'll scare you, because if you get it off the edge and up on top of your unfinished veg there along the edge, it looks like it's going to stain, or like your oil's not going to go through that. I have had a couple of situations where I've used it and it ends up going through, but it still scares me because I don't want anything sealing a portion or a blob spot right there along my edge that won't take oil or dye even when I go to do the finish work. So it's not an issue if you do like I do on most things. I've only noticed on a few things, because usually I will do, after it's tooled on veg tan, I'll do all my oiling, dye work, paint work, all of that, antiquing, everything like that before I line it and then before I edge it. So technically the piece I'm working on is completely finished. So there's no way that this is going to affect the top layer along the edge there if you get it up off the edge and into that piece, because it's already sealed with tan coat. It's already finished, so it's not an issue. But if you haven't done that yet, you might be careful not to get this stuff smeared all over the top edge too, or around the top, because it could potentially stain and not allow a good oil penetration and an even coat when you go to do that. But like on a finished leather, like those Horween leathers or a good chap leather or something like that, or harness leather, you don't have to worry about it because it's finished. You're not going to oil it, you're not going to antique it, you're not going to, you can put some tan coat on it, but that's not going to show any problems. So I think that's probably not a big issue for most of them, but if you're working in veg and you haven't finished it yet, be very careful not to get this up on the top. Same thing with the Martin's Mix. I think it's a really a small thing to worry about, especially if you're doing all the finish work first, but it's just something I wanted to mention before people kind of get crazy with it, because this stuff is a lot thicker. Martin's Mix is a little thinner, and it goes on a little easier with a dauber, and so I found that works good. I even put it in one of those paint pens or the dye pens. I put some in one of those. Seemed to work pretty good. Didn't give enough of it out fast enough for me, so I prefer using the dauber. But with this stuff, it's more of it's not a paste, but it's thicker, and so I got to kind of figure out how to work that. I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube using their finger, but getting a little dab and putting it on there. But I want to cover a long section long enough to burnish so that I can get it burnished really well and then do another long section. So, but we're going to play with it. I appreciate Maker's Leather Supply sending me those two things, because they're definitely going to be, anything that gets into this shop I'm going to use. I'm going to put to use somewhere, and so it's good stuff. We had a lot of fun with that. Also, Claudia speaking of Makers, she took their shoe class, so we mentioned before, she took that class, Aaron's sneaker class at Waco, and had a blast. And now she's hooked, so she's already, this is the only pair I found here. So I guess her other two are at home, but she's built 3 pair, I think, total. But this is one of the pairs she did, and she used that elephant print. If you've bought any of the wristlet material packs that we sell, we cut a bunch of those out of the elephant print. It's actually a cowhide, but it's printed to look like elephant. Really nice stuff. And I had a bunch of scraps back there, so she cut some shoe parts out of there and built these sneakers when she got back from Waco, and I think she did a fantastic job. With anything, there's a learning curve, and you're trying to figure everything out and that kind of deal. But these here are really clean, and they look really cool. I like the color scheme on these. Like I said, I don't wear a lot of shoes like this, but she's been wearing one of the pair that she made, and she really enjoys them. So if you're wanting to make a pair of sneakers, if you haven't heard about these, go to Maker's Leather Supply. I'll put a link down in the description, and check them out. They sell the kits. They sell it comes with a sole, and you can get with them. I don't know what all it comes with, but it comes with everything that you need. Pretty much, I believe, to make sneakers. So give them a call, visit with Doc, visit with Aaron, something like that, and get them going. And they do offer classes. I don't know when this next class is going to be for the sneaker deal, but you can certainly contact them and get some information on that. Then as far as what I've been working on, we got that one saddle build video done. That saddle's gone. We shipped it out, and so the man has it that purchased it and really enjoying it. This is his 4th saddle for me, I believe. So I always like those kind of situations, because it's not the first time they've sat in one of my saddles, so he knows what to expect. I know what to expect from him. It's a little bit easier situation, but hey, if there's anything wrong with it, he knows he can call me or whatever. But him having 3 or 4 of mine now is helpful, because he knows kind of how they ride and how they fit. But I've got another one going here. This one will be going to Arizona. We got the skirts on it. I'll grab the handheld camera and show you that up close, because I'm doing something a little bit different that I haven't done in quite some time. And the first time I ever did one, it wasn't like this, but it's a Mother Hubbard type of skirt. But I'll show you that in just a second. But I'm also working on a bag design, another bag. This will be another project video. It'll be a large one. I don't know when it's going to come out. I've got to get all the patterns kind of finalized. But I've got a very good friend of mine that is wanting an overnight bag, like a little weekender bag, just enough to hold enough stuff for a couple nights, that kind of deal. So it's not really going to be a duffel, but it's going to be somewhat like that. I'm trying to make it different, where we can add some tooled accents so that the pattern is, a little more interesting. You kind of change it up, make it work for you. But it's going to be, this is only half of the pattern, so that'll be along the bottom, and then this will come up here, and there'll be more to come on this. I've got it pretty well mapped out in my mind, but I don't have every detail cut out in poster board to mock it up and show you right now. So it's gonna be a cool bag, I think. I hope it works out. I'm gonna make him one, get all the kind of little details figured out, and get the pattern finalized, and then we'll hopefully start building one of those maybe by the end of the month. I want to get this bag done as quick as possible for him, and that way he's got it, because he may potentially want another 1 or 2 of them. So but anyway, we're working on that. And then as far as everything else, I'm just working on custom stuff, trying to catch up and try to, now that we got that one saddle build video done, I'm just kind of working on my custom list, try to get some of that cleaned out. We've kind of closed our books for custom orders as of right now, because we're trying to finish out the year. I'm trying to focus on saddles, get some of those caught up, and then we'll reassess it in January. So we've had a few calls with people wanting to get Christmas orders in and things like that. We're not taking any Christmas orders this year, and I have some other clients that already ordered earlier, and so we've got those on the books. But other than that, we're going to try to just kind of lay low, focus on our saddles and videos, and get everybody, kind of lined out for the rest of the year so that we can get kind of caught up. But let me grab the handheld. I want to show you this saddle, and then I want to show you some new shelves, those new shelves that we talked about that I put in the storage room, or the cut room back there. Okay, so this is a saddle that we're working on, and as you can see, this is just going to be a roper. That's a Olin Young tree, my usual tree. That Ray Lewis built this tree here. The last one we built on in that saddle build video was a Billy Hog tree. So that's why you saw me sometimes I was having to pre-drill some of the holes for the nails and things like that. This Lewis tree is probably one of my favorite trees that I build on. It's just really good. It's 14.5-inch seat, but we're doing an in-skirt front rig, as well as the rear rig, or the flank rig is also going to be in skirt, and it's not going to have any kind of housing back here. We're not going to do any housing. It's just basically what they call a Mother Hubbard. And so I had to get a little assistance in trying to figure out the pattern for this. I've done it this way before. If you go to our saddle gallery, you'll see a saddle similar to this with no back skirt or no jockey, rear jockey. But on that saddle, if you notice, we did just a normal double D rig on the front. And so it was not inskirted. That was a saddle we did years ago. And so this is going to be my first that's actually going to be inskirted front and back rig with no housings, all Mother Hubbard style is what they call that. And so it's my first run. I think it's coming along well. I think I got a little work to do on my patterning and just trying to get it, where it's just right. But I'm pretty pleased with it. So we'll get this. These have been drying all weekend, and so we'll go ahead and start more of the process today. So if you want to see more process on this, we'll post to Instagram like we usually do. Okay, so now we're out here in the cut room. You've all seen this in some of the videos, particularly the last video we were shooting from here and cutting all the saddle parts out. Somebody else asked how many parts or how much leather was involved in that one saddle. You've got about $1,000 worth of material altogether. 2 to 2.5 sides of leather, depending on how you cut your stuff out, is what it'll take. So figure one whole cow, both sides, is what it'll take to build one custom saddle. Again, manufacturing companies and things, they've got that dwindled down where they can cut costs by not putting quite as much in there. But this is our cut room, so we've got some storage over here. Of course, we've got a ton of storage right here, just junk. We're gonna clean all this up here pretty quick. I'm kind of in an organizing mode. And so we've got our splitter over there, our clicker, and that thing. But what we did was I went ahead and found somebody selling these big shelves. So they're 10 feet tall, 4 foot by 8 foot is each shelf's dimension. And so we put those together, and it's 5 shelves. So I've got one on the bottom there where I can put rolled leather and just keep it rolled. If you're not gonna use the leather for a while, for me, it's better to go ahead and keep it wrapped up and keep it rolled. And in the paper, because you get a little bit less light damage. But then when you start sorting through them and trying to find what you need for a certain project, a lot of times it's very helpful to have them like this, which is why I wanted these shelves in particular, because you can roll out your sides and let them lay flat. That'll take a lot of the curl out of them. They're less apt to get as much light damage because they're whole hides. And so you've got to be careful with things like this and having these just rolled right there, because we could potentially get a light line right here. This room is always dark. If I'm not back here, the lights are usually off, but we do have extreme heat here in South Texas. And so the heat is a bit of an issue on this leather. I think for finished leathers, it's not really a problem, but for veg tan, I have noticed if it sits out here for, I'm talking a couple months without using some of it, it can get a little bit stiff and a little bit hard to cut. So that's something that we're gonna have to address, which I'm thinking just of, insulating this room back here and possibly air conditioning it and making it a more usable space by doing that. But we're missing our very top shelf up there, which we have a sheet of plywood Claudia will be bringing today, and we'll get that thrown up there. They had when I bought these shelves from somebody off Facebook, they had a bunch of these. I had this real thick piece of MDF, I guess, and those things are heavy, very heavy. They're 3/4 of an inch thick, and that material is just really heavy. So getting it up on top there at that top shelf level is a bit of an issue for just me and my wife. So I went ahead and just said, I'm not going to put anything super heavy way up there anyway. It's over 8 feet off the ground. So what we're going to just put a regular sheet of plywood up there. It'll be a little lighter and easier to get up there. But that's our shelves. That's our organization deal there. We'll kind of keep modifying it, but just getting clutter off of the ground is the main thing. All right, so that's the saddle and the shelves that we're working on there. I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. I've got some things we've got to get going. It's Monday, so we usually got, office stuff to do and different things. I've got some organizing stuff we've got to do. The kids are gonna be in the shop today, so we're gonna try to put them to work, helping me clean up their little area over there because it looks like a bomb went off over there all the time. Of course, my shop does too, so they kind of learn by example. So if my area is a wreck, their area stays a wreck, and they assume it's okay. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get the shop a little bit more organized to start the week off today and work on this saddle here. I've got some things cut out and go from there. Lost Trade, we haven't forgot about you. We are just trying to get some people scheduled up. We had some conflicts last week with some things going on, but we're getting people scheduled, getting people interviewed, and we should have some new episodes coming out here pretty quick, so be ready for that. If you haven't heard a Lost Trade podcast, go to Apple or Spotify and search that, or just go to our website and click on podcast at the top, and you'll find it right there. And there's 30-something episodes, I believe. Great craftsmen, men and women that you can listen to and hear their story and kind of what they do in their business. Pretty interesting, and we're getting a lot of good feedback off of that. But I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to go to dgsaddlery.com and subscribe to the Leathercraft newsletter, and we'll see you all next week in the Monday morning briefing.